Young, this is quite a ticket you have here. I see you've been on an extensive trip. Africa, Europe, and even Israel.
Yes, it's a trip I'll never forget. We visited many wonderful places, none more interesting than Israel.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
Israel, that is interesting. We're hearing a great deal about that new country these days. By the way, my name is Muntz.
Muntz. J. Palmer Muntz.
That's right. How'd you know?
Winona Lake Bible Conference, of course. I can readily understand your interest in Israel. Don't you have an annual conference on prophecy and the Jew?
We surely do. Bible students from all over America gather each year at Winona Lake to discuss the significance of current events relating to Israel, especially as these developments are presaged in Bible prophecy. But frankly, our primary desire is to reach Jews all over the world with the truth that Jesus of Nazareth is their promised Messiah. Israel certainly is a fertile field for Christian missionary activity. By the way, what was your reason for going to Israel?
My reason for going to the Holy Land was the same as that of countless other Christians who, for centuries past, have gone there to see with their own eyes the land where Jesus lived and died.
Would you mind telling me all about it?
Gladly. I was especially impressed with changeless, timeless quality of the places I saw. People seemed to be coming and going there as they must have come and gone for centuries. There's something about the Near East which sets it apart as different from all the rest of the world. Here, tradition is still a respected concept. And yet, with all its ancient customs and traditional manners, the 20th century invasion is seen on every hand. An invasion of Western clothing and bright, shining gadgets. Ancient streets, which have for centuries known only Eastern ways, are now looking out on a strange new world. A world of begrudging acceptance of concepts both new and foreign. One cannot help but sense an indifference here to the modern tempo of Western life. A leisurely, casual pattern of activity is seen on every hand. An unhurried pace. A prosaic outlook bordering on fatalism. The Arab of Jerusalem, although now a city dweller, is essentially a son of the desert, a nomad. Since the dawn of history, this troubled land has been a highway for rampaging armies. Egyptians sweeping to the north, the Medes and the Persians from the east, Greeks and Romans from the west, Napoleon, General Allenby. Since it was strategically located on the main overland route from the north to the south, most of these military leaders considered Palestine not so much as a prize in itself, but rather as a means to an end. Scars of this history are seen everywhere, as evidenced in the ancient ruins of battles long past, in the retarded state of economic development, but most of all, as seen in the lines of care and worry etched on the faces of its people. War has passed this way many times, none more devastating than the Arab-Israel War, leveling peaceful homes and churches, erecting grotesque monuments in their places. Massive walls can be crushed by modern bombardment, but barriers of racial prejudice erected in the hearts of men constitute an insurmountable Maginot line of hatred. The Wailing Wall is now deserted. What was once the scene of praying Jews is now a lonely, dead-end street where only the steps of an Arab soldier on guard to keep the Jews away can be heard. For centuries, Jews came from every land to write their prayers on bits of parchment, to beat their heads against these massive limestone courses, to grieve their hearts in agony because of their dispersion. Many are the Jews who have wailed here anticipating the Messiah's coming, praying for that day when the chosen one of Israel, David's son, would redeem the nation. Jerusalem. Never to be forgotten is the thrill of passing through Bethany and over the shoulder of the Mount of Olives. There it is, spread out before you. One of the oldest cities in the world, and to the student of Bible lands, easily the most important. A few miles from Jerusalem, at the outskirts of Bethlehem, we came upon the Cave of the Shepherds, where the shepherds who watched their flocks by night heard the announcement of the Messiah's birth. The Church of the Nativity is enshrined in our minds as the site of the Savior's birth. At the tiny entrance to the church, we thought of the words of Jesus.
Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice, and will open the door, I will come in unto him, and will sup with him, and he with me.
One of the high points of our trip was seeing the ancient earthen pottery in the home of Professor Sukenik, in which the famous Dead Sea Scrolls of the book of Isaiah were discovered. These seldom photographed manuscripts, which were recently discovered, are the oldest Hebrew manuscripts of the Old Testament extant, reputed to have been in existence several hundred years before the time of Christ. Of outstanding archaeological value, the Isaiah scrolls establish beyond any question that one man was, under inspiration of God, the author of that major prophetic work. Professor Sukenik translated for us from the original Hebrew Isaiah's description of the suffering servant who carried our sorrows, was bruised for our iniquities. How natural to go from Isaiah to the place of the skull, to Calvary itself, to that site which is accepted by most evangelical scholars as the authentic place of the crucifixion of our Lord. As you walk down the side of Calvary, at the bottom of the hill, you come to the garden tomb. Here one must pause to read the words of Matthew, describing the glory of that first Easter morning when the angel of the Lord descended from heaven, rolled back the stone from the door, saying,
Fear not ye, he is not here, for he is risen as he said. Come see the place where the Lord lay, and go quickly and tell his disciples that he is risen from the dead.
From the garden tomb, we went to the Mount of Olives, which dominates Jerusalem on the east. It thrilled us to stand there and read these words from the Acts.
Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus which is taken up from you into heaven shall so come in like manner as ye have seen him go into heaven.
Shall so come in like manner. These words, like the tolling of a bell, keep ringing in my ears. Since returning from the Holy Land, I've been unable to forget them. I sincerely believe they are the most important words in the world.
Speaking of the second coming of Christ, you might be interested in an article I've just been reading in Christian Life magazine, in which the editors have reiterated the idea that perhaps we have only a short time left before the end of this age. I've been a student of Bible prophecy for years, and have been especially interested in those signs of the end time relating to the nation of Israel. Did you see anything in the Holy Land which would indicate a possible fulfillment of prophecy?
Yes, I certainly did. In fact, I returned from the Holy Land with an altogether different feeling than I expected to have. Visiting the historic shrines of Christianity was, of course, of great interest and blessing. but I was equally impressed with the things that are occurring in that land today. Events unfolding in Israel before our very eyes. As you look out over the New Jerusalem, after crossing the 50 yards from the Arab-held Old Jerusalem through the famous Mendelbaum Gate, you'll be impressed with a marked contrast between two civilizations living side by side, yet centuries apart in character. In contrast with the 10th century Arab world, with its primitive housing, shops, and transportation, we have modern Jewish Jerusalem. Commerce and trade, business activities, architecture reflecting all the advantages of contemporary design and utility. Shops catering to all the desires of Western living. Women of Israel find the window displays of Zion Square as irresistible as American women on Fifth Avenue. The traffic problems peculiar to city life in the Western world have invaded even the Holy City. And of course, Tel Aviv, the hill of eternal spring. For a number of years, the only truly Jewish city in the world, now one of the fastest growing metropolitan areas in all of the East. In the great cities of Israel, one feels the pulse of a nation awakening to its rebirth. Not since Solomon's reign has the nation's heart beat with such enthusiasm and vigor. Standing in front